Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's South Stretford Post. How you all doing? And welcome to another episode of Chatterbox. Today, I'm joined by my main man, James Robson. What's going on, mate?
I'm all good, thanks. Just on the come down from last night, which was a bit hectic to say the least.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy one, wasn't it? As a Man United fan, everything all happened at once. I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't seen the fan base so close knitted together this last few days. It's been quite nice, to be honest with you. I know it's been a bit dramatic, but I've actually enjoyed it, to be honest with you.
Well, when it all started to come out on Sunday, and I think for any football fan, a football reporter, it was a little bit, I suppose, frightening a little bit. We didn't know where this was going. It was all pretty shocking, depressing as well. That these clubs were acting so selfishly. But the one thing that gave me optimism was, in all my life, I've never known football fans, the football community, unite like that. So you're saying United fans united, but they didn't just unite with United fans, did they? They united with City fans, with Chelsea fans. And what I really, really found encouraging was the fact that it was the fans of the big six clubs who were so vocal about this. Look, they were the ones who were going to benefit, if you like, in the sense of getting, being part of this Super League, if there was a benefit, of course. But they didn't want it either. They knew it stank. So it was nice that they were unifying with the clubs who were being cut adrift, which was anyone could see was totally out of order.
It was, yeah. I don't know where it all came from. What do you think the motives were behind this? Everyone is saying money was the motive. Do you feel it was just about money, or was it some other interior motives that were guiding these owners along to do this?
Well, look, everything's about money. We can't, in football, look, it's naive if we think it's about anything else. And of course, we're all football fans, and when you're a kid, you think, I'd do that for free. But the footballers today, they were kids who thought they'd do it for free, and of course they moved from one club to another to get a better deal, all that sort of stuff. Look, from every level of the game, of course, money counts. It makes the world go round. But what I think, though, so obviously that was a motivation for all of these clubs. But I think the big thing was that security. It was the guarantee, because look, they all get loads of money as it is anyway. The Premier League pays fortunes, TV rights, fortunes, Champions League. There's loads of money swirling around the game. But it was that guarantee, that absolute guarantee of the no jeopardy, which was what made it stink like it did. It was the fact that we can't be relegated. We're always going to be at the top table, and that's just absolutely horrendous. And I think that the ones that stand out for me are the likes of United and Arsenal, who they stand out to me as two clubs who, of course, there was a time when they could guarantee they would always be in the Champions League. It was never in question. Manchester United not being in the Champions League. Manchester United not finishing top was a disaster, wasn't it? Let alone for a second. But since Fergie, since he went, they have become a club that in no way you could say are a guaranteed top four club. If you think in the post-Fergie years, guaranteed top four would be Manchester City, definitely. Beyond that, even Tottenham, for the most part, they look like a club who could always be in it. With United, it was hit and miss, wasn't it?
It has been, yeah. I don't know. It's a very underwhelming Super League at the moment. You look at it, it'd be like Man United haven't been champions for 8 years now. Man City have never won the Champions League. And you've got Tottenham who've never won the league. They haven't won the league since the 50s, is it? Or something like that. I just feel it was just a complete farce. And, it was only a matter of time before it was all going to come, falling, flat on their faces, because I feel like they've completely lost the trust of the fans now. That little bit of trust that they had is gone now, in my opinion. And, I don't know what's going to happen now. There's a protest at Old Trafford on Saturday in regards to the Glazers. You got FSG who've apologised. Do you feel that's the right thing, apologising to the fans?
I think the problem. Look, I've seen the apology, and the problem is I think I tweeted about it earlier. You know, I'm looking forward to FSG's next apology because they keep making these mistakes and then owning up to these mistakes. You know, we got it wrong. We misjudged you. Well, it comes to the point where you just don't know your fans at all, do you? And it's just a case of, oh, we'll try this one. Oh no, they don't like that. Of course they don't. We'll back down. You know, how many times do you get away with that? You know, we cannot forget furlough. We cannot forget that. You know. We cannot forget the Super League. That's Liverpool. And, you know, I mentioned this the other day. You know, I think United fans, they always, you know, they kind of knew what the Glazers are. They saw them for what they are. They protested them coming in. They've pretty much complained through their entire reign. You know, the Glazers got away with it while Fergie was there, and you know he was a one-man winning machine. As soon as he goes, you start to see the thing come crumbling. And of course, that's what's frightened them, and that's why we need to do whatever we can to ensure that we get the money no matter what we do on the pitch. FSG. I think Liverpool might have thought they had guns there, but they've shown themselves to up for what they are. I kind of feel like I would be disappointed if by the end of this week this is forgotten. But it's moved so fast, it feels like that could be the case. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago, we were all up in arms about Project Big Picture, weren't we? And, you know, I can't remember the last time anyone mentioned that until this came up. And I don't want them to get away with it that easily, because I don't think it's right that, you know, they tried to do this. They were committed to this. You know, they put together their logo. They had their big announcement. Florentino Perez was going on TV. Even Joel Glazer, actually, we saw quotes from Joel Glazer from a United point of view. He was the vice chairman. You know, they were really committed to this. And Woodward has been knocking at the door at this sort of thing for quite a while. He's been very proud to tell investors that United are at the forefront of discussions regarding reform. You know, so they were all for this, and it was only when they saw this backlash and they saw that, all right, it's not just a few fans, it's not just a little bit quiet, oh, the government's getting involved, oh, this, oh, that, you know, that they all absolutely backed down, which again shows them up for what they are as well. I don't want this to be forgotten, and I think all the fans of those clubs should remember it. Look, I'm not saying you abandon your club, of course you don't. You know, I'm certainly not saying that, but you know, let's not forget this.
I agree. I mean, I certainly haven't. I mean, I've been there most games with my green and gold scarf, you know, in protest to the Glazers. They just double confirmed what I already knew about them. You know, I do feel that, you know, we should learn from this. I feel like to prevent something like this happening again, maybe we should adopt the German model of ownership of the club, you know, because they don't care about our club. They don't care. They don't care if we went down the pan, to be honest with you. They don't care if we got extinct. They just care about the money. And that's what upsets us the most, is that, you know, we've been in the midst of a pandemic. I mean, I work for the NHS in my part-time, and, you know, I know how devastating this has been on communities around Britain or around Europe, around the world. And for them to hide behind the pandemic as well, it sort of hit home for me that these guys are no good. They're only in it for their own interest. Florentino Perez, all these guys there, you know, they're only in it for their own interest. They don't care about English football, the heritage of English football, the working man's clubs, where these clubs came from. I bet you the Glazers wouldn't know where Manchester United came from, the history of Manchester United, where they came from, you know. So it sort of hit home for me that these guys are just there for the money. They're not there. They don't give a damn about what United do, whether they win trophies or not, etc. I'll bring it back to the German model. Do you feel like a German sort of model would be a good way forward for the English Premier League, in your opinion?
I don't know on that, and I don't know how easy it would be to implement. You know, it's all nice saying it, but you know, during this past week, we've been hearing about possible compulsory purchase orders, haven't we? And that sort of thing. Again, you know, how actually realistic any of this is, I don't know. And the thing I would say about Germany is, and you know, absolutely, I was so impressed with Bayern Munich not getting involved in this, and Dortmund not getting involved, and Bayern speaking out about it. I was impressed by that. But you also got to remember that in Germany, you've got one club that absolutely wraps up everything all the time. So while I know the fans tend to be happy and they feel like they're very much a part of the club, and they have great crowds, and they have, and obviously they had the safe standing for quite a while. That sort of thing. There's a lot of very positive things about Germany, but the thing that is a huge negative is the fact that Bayern Munich absolutely walk it every year. And already this summer you're looking at which Dortmund players they'll buy, because Bayern Munich pick off the best Dortmund players, and that's that. So, I don't know that necessarily German football is the ultimate model that we need to follow. I think the Premier League's great, and what it comes down to is, the likes of the Spanish clubs and the Italian clubs, they're just desperate to get a piece of that pie. That's why there were 6 Premier League clubs in this thing. Of 12 breakaway teams, you've got 6 Premier League clubs. And as we've mentioned before, the likes of Tottenham and Arsenal in that, who and City, of course, who never won a Champions League. They were part of that. And that's because they love what the Premier League stands for, and the Premier League gives out great prize money for the teams involved. Look, okay, you can say that we've said for a while there's kind of there's 2 or 3 leagues in one in the Premier League, but let's not forget Leicester City did win the title. Let's not forget West Ham currently level on points in 4th. Last season, pre-pandemic, Sheffield United were knocking on the door of 4th place. The Premier League is still a place to dream. And now I do also appreciate that it's a very specific dream, because the clubs I'm mentioning there, for instance, Leicester City, incredibly rich owners. So it's not quite the case of coming from nowhere and win the Premier League. But in modern terms, it is like that. And the way that this whole thing was structured, you do kind of kill the dream for that sort of club. Obviously the fear is that fans don't have control of their clubs, but I don't know how much control have fans had for a long time. I've always been fairly pragmatic about football in general. I appreciate that as a fan, the centre forward for my club probably doesn't have the same emotional bond with them as I do. And if he gets the chance to move to a club where he'll win more trophies or get more money, as much as it hurts, because you always think, oh, one of our own, that sort of thing. Well, realistically, we're same as any of us. If you get offered loads of money to go somewhere else for another job, well, the likelihood is you're probably going to go. So I've always been fairly pragmatic about that, and likewise with owners. I understand they're in it for money. I get that. It'd be naive to think otherwise. It's a beautiful thought to think all they're in it for is the community and everything, but it's unrealistic. They spend a lot of money, and they want to see a return for that money, and I'm okay with it. But what I'm not okay with is them not showing any ambition. You look at the likes of Abramovich and City's owners. The one thing that I think why people were a bit surprised about them being involved in this is that I do believe their owners actually value success. They appreciate success for the sake of success. I don't think you can look at their running of either of those clubs and think that they've not tried to make them win the biggest trophies all the time. For whatever else you don't like about it, they're trying to do that. I think the concern at United, the feeling among fans, is that what's more important to the Glazers? Is it getting into the Champions League? And you look at the history since Fergie went. Managers get sacked if they don't finish top 4. They can win a trophy, but if they don't finish top 4, they get sacked. If you look at the spending, once they're in the Champions League, once they've qualified, that spending tends to drop off. When they drop off, they start spending again to get back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
And that leads to very fair questions from fans as to how actually important is it for you to win a trophy? And then when they're trying to be involved in something like Super League, which can guarantee to be in it all the time, then I think there would be a very real fear of, how much would they ever invest again to actually try to win trophies if there's never any jeopardy that they won't get into the Champions League or the Super League?
Yeah, that's the actual worry. And you hit the nail on the head there. Every time we got a chance to progress, a chance to push on, we qualify for the Champions League, they don't want to spend. And it's the same story every year. you know, and this is becoming a bit of an issue with the board. Sometimes we're better off finishing outside the top four, so they spend a bit of money. It's a bit crazy. It's really in regards to that. I want to ask you one thing about. Do you feel like these teams should be punished in regards to what's been happening this last few days? Do you feel like they still warrant punishment? Like a point, Alan Shearer said a points deduction, for example. Do you think that would be just?
You know what? I'd absolutely love it if they all got huge points deductions. And the thing is, it's got to be big because the point is that, for instance, if it's not big enough, then they're not really going to feel it. I mean, for instance, it'd have to be a very big points deduction for City not to win the title still. It's got to be, and I'm not just picking on City now, I'm talking about all of them. So obviously, it would be the same points deduction for them all. That would mean United and City and Liverpool not getting into the Champions League. Who knows? Maybe Arsenal and Tottenham knocking on the door of relegation for the last few weeks of the season, fighting to stay up. I would like to see, in an ideal world, I'd like to see that because, backing out just because fans bullied you, frightened you into it, if you like, that doesn't really feel like, and there's public humiliation here. That's great as well because they need that. They need that humiliation to try to stop anything like this ever happening again. But to me, that still doesn't feel like enough. Now, I'm saying in an ideal world that would happen. I don't expect that to happen in any way. I think it would be perfect if it was right. You're not in the Champions League at least next season, at least. But you look at Arsenal and Spurs. Well, it's not really any punishment for them anyway, is it? It feels like I would like to see it because it's something. It's going to stink a bit if Manchester City are lifting the Premier League title on the back of this. If Chelsea are lifting the FA Cup or the Champions League even, or City the Champions League on the back of this. If Manchester United win the Europa League on the back of this and finish second, the joint highest finish since Fergie retired, or who knows, even pushing City for the title if the final weeks of the season go a little bit crazy. That just doesn't quite feel right, and it'd be very hard to celebrate those achievements. As much as the other side of that is that this isn't the players' fault, it's not the manager's fault, and it's really cruel to punish them and, of course, the fans of those clubs. But whenever these sort of things, points deductions come around, it's generally not. It generally punishes the fans when they don't deserve it, or when clubs go into administration, that sort of thing, and it punishes the players when they don't deserve it. But a stand does need to be made. Like I say, I don't expect it to happen, especially as UEFA and the Premier League are just obviously very happy that all these clubs have backed down. So to then suddenly start antagonising them, that's not going to go down very well at all. But it does kind of feel like they've got off scot-free.
Yeah, especially when you bear in mind, a few years ago now, in Serie A, you had Fiorentina and Juventus go down, get relegated for misdemeanors that they were up to. Match fixing, etc. This is a very serious offence what the teams have done here, and I agree that there should be a form of punishment, but I don't think there will, obviously, because they have backed down, and they backed down early as well. They didn't push it to the point where it was going on and dragging on and going to court, etc. I think it's a good thing they backed out, and I'm happy they backed out, but we should count our lucky stars that we're not being docked points, we're not being thrown out the Europa League, because they're well in their rights to do that. But as you said, it would upset the apple cart even more if they did that, and God knows what happened after that. But where do United go from here in regards to Ed Woodward leaving? Do you feel that they're prepared to bring in a new director of football into the club and a new CEO in there? It's all a bit of a mess at the moment. No one knows what's going on. Do we have someone lined up?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you who is lined up. This was pretty hastily announced yesterday. I'm told that it had nothing to do with the Super League, but draw your own conclusions based on the timing. What I would say is, and again, I can't I can't speak to the Glazers' thinking, because the whole thing about the Glazers since they were there is that they're utterly silent. You know, it's been incredible over the past few days that they've actually gone on record twice to speak. That Joel's gone on record twice. You know, you don't see them at the ground very often, let alone hear them. So, you know, in terms of what they're thinking, who knows on that one? I've always been told that Joel is very, very much hands-on, and was constantly in contact with Woodward. He was very much hands-on. What I would say about them is, my impression of them is that they're not big fans of upheaval. You know, for instance, Woodward was appointed from within. If you look at the way that the club's been run over the years since Fergie left, you know, this absolute refusal to appoint a director of football, that's kind of it makes it easy that then, you just sack a manager, bring another manager in. There's not too much else there's upheaval, if you like. There's a maintain of control there. They've appointed a football director, not a director of football, a football director in John Murtaugh. He was already at the club. And pretty much we've been told that he was pretty much doing that job anyway in recent times. So again, not much upheaval. And of course, businesses don't like upheaval. You know, they want to keep running smoothly. They don't want the share price to fluctuate as a result of that. So yeah, look, I think a dream appointment would be someone like Edwin van der Sar, because, you know, he's done wonders at Ajax. Obviously, he's an ex-United man. He's a football man, cares about football. You saw his response to Super League proposals. You know, he is someone that United fans, I think, would think, wow, you know, they've got the club back if someone like him was in place. Can't see it happening. Can't see it happening at all. I would more expect someone like Richard Arnold just to move into that role. And who knows, maybe a promotion for the likes of Beatty or Matt Judge, something like that. That seems more their modus operandi, if you like, than going all out with this I don't know, if you like, a celebrity appointment, if you like. But, you know, it's one of the biggest jobs in the world, not just one of the biggest jobs in football, one of the biggest jobs in the world. They should be after the very, very, very best for that position. But yeah, I would imagine more likely to come from within. Also, that probably leads to less upheaval further down, because, you know, for instance, if they bring in a new chief, and obviously someone like Solskjaer wouldn't be his appointment, and maybe a new chief would say, well, you know, I would rather a Nagelsmann or something like that. Who knows? You bring in someone from within already, and maybe that structure just remains the same. Murtaugh still football director, Solskjaer in charge, Darren Fletcher technical director. I'd imagine that would be the preferred route.
Yeah, spot on. I don't think we've replaced Peter Kenyon, to be honest. David Gill, sorry, and I don't think we've replaced these guys, to be honest with you. The reputation in regards to United in Europe now is probably on the floor, you know, and we've messed about with football clubs in the transfer market. You know, we had great relationships with certain clubs, especially Ajax. Now, obviously, what's happened with Van der Beek, etc. What do you feel needs to be done at United in regards to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer if he's going to take it to the next level? Obviously, he's steadied the ship, and he's done okay, and he's second place. But what do you think needs to be done in the summer, in the transfer market, for Ole to take it to that next level in regards to challenging for the title?
I think what United fans would just love to see would be an absolute statement summer. I think they should have done it last year, and I know. Obviously, there was the fallout from COVID, and, you know, United, like everyone else, have been hit massively by that, and I get that. But you saw, for instance, last summer what Chelsea did, and again, I know Chelsea, they'd had a year of not spending, so I appreciate that as well. But they really took advantage of the market last summer. You know, they signed 2 players, and okay, they've been pretty disappointing. But for instance, in Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, those were players that the rest of Europe wanted. They were the stars of German football, and they went out and took advantage and got them. I think there was an opportunity for United to do the same with Jadon Sancho. He's still a player they lack. they had that opportunity. They need a top class centre back alongside Harry Maguire. And they need a set forward. For all this talk of Edison Cavani, who obviously is class, we can see that he's been class for years. But he was also class about 6 or 7 years ago when he was offered to United and they didn't want him. They bought him now as an old man and he's winding down his career. They need they need Erling Haaland, obviously, but another major striker, just a top quality striker. How they let Jude Bellingham go, I don't know. I know that he looked at his own career development and saw that Dortmund would be the place for that. But you just think if you say the right words to him, and if as an he's not a United fan, if as an outsider he's looking at that club and thinking, yeah, that is a club where I can really grow and become a superstar, then you get him. He's an English lad. You get him, and they let him slip through the net. I know they tried to get him, but I didn't get him. They tried to get Erling Haaland. He didn't want to go there either. What's wrong with this club if players like Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham don't want to join them? Can you imagine that in the past? I know they didn't get everyone in the past. I know Gareth Bale chose Tottenham and Theo Walcott chose Arsenal, and likewise Aaron Ramsey. Didn't get everyone, but they did get a lot. Like Wayne Rooney, when it came up, Wayne Rooney, yes, I'm there. How the two players. You look at those two players; they're amazing. And what difference would they make to this United team right now? So I'd just love to see them make a statement somewhere. But the thing I would say about Woodward, and I know that a lot of fans ridicule him and they blame him for a lot that's gone wrong at that club. But what he took over with Fergie going, that was anyone's going to struggle with that situation. I don't think as much as they did struggle, but anyone's going to struggle. So we don't. The great unknown about David Gill, and he's got this great reputation, is that of course he had Fergie there all the time. So Kenyon had Fergie there as well, and Martin Edwards had Fergie there as well. And what the common denominator there is trophies and Fergie, not the chief exec. So if Fergie had stayed on with Woodward, I really would have liked to have seen that, because the thing about Woodward is, once he got, if you like, the keys to the treasure chest, to the war chest, was that he actually looked and thought, we're Man United. We shouldn't be letting Ronaldo go for a start. So his first summer straight away, he wants Ronaldo back. He's thinking Gareth Bale's available. He might be the next Ronaldo. We want him. He tried to sign them both in his first summer. He tried to sign Cesc Fabregas as well. Look, you can't have a go at the man's ambition. And the sort of thing, let's remember, the sort of thing that United fans for years were screaming about and saying, why are United not after these top players? They watched Yaya Toure and Sergio Aguero and David Silva go to City and heard Fergie say there's no value in the market. They saw Wesley Sneijder come and go to who knows how many different clubs without United ever signing him, and Fergie's still saying no value in the market. Well, City found some fantastic value in the market during that period. And, who knows whose fault that was, why those players weren't signed. But, I think if Woodward had been around with Fergie, he would have been trying to sign those players because he was ambitious. Now, look, he didn't get them over the line, and that's why he got criticised. And he got criticised a lot. And certainly, as time went on, more and more big signings slipped through the net, and the ones that he did sign were really, really poor. There were loads of really poor signings. How much of that's his fault? How much of that's the fault of trusting someone like Van Gaal to pick? I don't know, because obviously, I think they've both got different sides of that story. We heard what Van Gaal said. He gave them a list of whatever it was, 10 players, and couldn't get any of them. But I don't think, certainly in those first few years after Fergie went, there was a lack of ambition. I mean, you think of what Van Gaal's first summer, Di Maria, Falcao, there was a lot of excitement there. The next summer, you might laugh at it now, Schneiderlin, but I couldn't find a United fan who didn't want Schneiderlin when United signed Schneiderlin. They were really excited. Bastian Schweinsteiger as well. Again, look, he was an old man, but it was, they're signing Bayern Munich and German legend Schweinsteiger. These were exciting signings that they made. They didn't come off. And, United have got to hold their hands up for that. I don't know how much I blame Woodward for that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I for one, I was very excited about Schneider, and I was excited about Schweinsteiger as well when we signed him, and Falcao. Di Maria as well in the same summer, wasn't it? Unbelievable. Daily Blind. They have backed the managers, but in regards to, especially Van Gaal and Mourinho, even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they've backed them. But do you feel like the choices of managers have been the right ones? I mean, when Ferguson left, it was obviously Moyes. I mean, I was surprised we got Moyes. I don't know about you. I was a bit surprised we got Moyes. I mean, he had a top 4 finish with Everton. That's about it. He done okay with Everton. I didn't think he was the right fit for United. And I feel like even to this day, we're kind of suffering from those bad decisions from back then, back in 2013. I don't know about you, but I feel like there's just the managerial appointments for me and implementing a style of football. I mean, we've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now. You know, he plays football in the counter-attack. I mean, it's good in some games. It's, you know, okay. But I just feel like some of the decision-making in regards to management, which comes from the board, have been lacking. And in regards to coaches, physios, not just managers, of course, you know, and a director of football, which we're so desperately been crying out for a long, long time.
Well, the big problem there is you hit the nail on the head with that last bit. It was director of football, because there was no singular vision, and that's the problem. And that's what a director of football does. For some reason, Woodward couldn't get into his head, and this was the problem. Now with David Moyes, I don't know how much Woodward's to blame for David Moyes. He's one of those who, after he failed, no one seemed to want to take responsibility for it. When he got the job, there was a lot of, we've listened to what Sir Alex said. I think if you read Fergie's book, he mentions at least 3 or 4 other managers that he quite fancied. Personally, at the time, I thought there was only one man to take the job, and it was Jose Mourinho. I thought he would have been perfect. Now, at the time, they were losing the greatest manager of all time, and I just felt they needed a guaranteed winner and a guy who just would not be overall in the situation whatsoever. So I thought it should have been Mourinho at the time. Now, that was at the time. Now, when I'm looking back and I look at what he did when he came, I just think the football could not have been accepted, and maybe he would have still broken up that team that Fergie left. But I think it gets way too much criticism. The team he left, they walked the title that year, and I've spoken to people around the team at that time, and they think they still have plenty of years left in them, and just a very well drilled team. They weren't the greatest United team, but they knew how to win. They knew how to look after the players. I wonder what Mourinho would have done with that. So maybe my choice would have been wrong as well at that time. I think Fergie quite liked the idea of Ancelotti. I think he mentioned in his book. I'm wrong. That I could see. That I could definitely see, because Ancelotti, one of his great things is he can come in and he doesn't disrupt, and he'll make do, and he'll work with what he's got. And the more I think about it, the more he probably would have been ideal. As for Moyes, I've got sympathy for him, because he came in believing that he had 6 years. He came in believing that United weren't a sacking club. Now, he was naive to think that, but I don't think United thought they were a sacking club either, completely forgetting their entire history pre-Ferguson. But we thought he had 6 years. So when that first summer was dreadful, and he got completely let down, because, of course, he comes in and Woodward's telling him, yeah, we're going to go for Bale, we're going to go for Ronaldo. Well, he's joining United. He thinks, I've got the keys to the castle here. He obviously thinks we can get them, and he doesn't get them. But that doesn't work out. He still thinks he's got another year. The day that it all broke, that he'd lost his job, he was putting together a presentation, because he was planning on flying out to see the Glazers, where he was going to discuss with them his plans for the future. He'd already signed Juan Mata. I think it's well documented now that he thought he was going to get Toni Kroos. And Herrera was one along the way as well. Luke Shaw as well, I think. So, Gareth Bale was the one he wanted. Whether he would have got him, I don't know. For a long time, United have wanted Gareth Bale pretty much every summer, and he's never come. So, but he was planning for the future. He thought he had time. As disastrous as that first season was, he thought he had time. Now, when they didn't finish in the and didn't finish in the Champions League. You've got to remember back then, United should have finished in the top 4 on muscle memory alone. You know, like I was saying before, to not be in the top 2 was a disaster. So, you know, I think you can't complain about United sacking you after that, but he was planning for the long term. So I've got a certain amount of sympathy there. With Van Gaal, again, you know, that summer, I didn't hear too many United fans complaining about him coming in because, again, he's a proven winner. Everywhere he'd gone, he won the title. And I don't think there was anyone else available. I think Ancelotti had gone somewhere else, hadn't he? I think, obviously, they tried to get Klopp, but he didn't want to come. But again, this is where a director of football comes in, because a director of football would have said he doesn't play United style. It's not going to work. You know, we don't have the players to suit the way he plays, which is this mega possession football, but you know, just squeeze the life out of opponents and fans watching it. You know, a director of football would have said that guy doesn't fit with the club that's been built here. But they didn't have that, and because they didn't have that, Woodward also put loads of faith in Van Gaal to pretty much go out and pick players they got. So, you know, like I said, there's counter stories here. That, you know, at United, they'll tell you that there were certain players Van Gaal wanted that other scouts were saying he's not United, but Van Gaal wanted him. And Van Gaal will tell you United wouldn't let him have any of the players he wanted to sign. So, you know, it works both ways. But again, you know, he did win a cup. You know, he won the first trophy post Fergie, but you know, the football was awful. It was non-United
football,
a cup, of course.
He won a cup with...
So I think he won a cup.
Yeah, he won a cup.
I think they were right to let him go as absolutely. Yeah. But you know, I think that the way they did it was horrible. But they were probably right. And I think once Guardiola had gone to City, Mourinho was the only thing they could do at the time. And again, I don't remember United fans saying no to Mourinho when he came in. Again, you thought, yes, this is whatever it is, 2-3 years too late, but at last, and you know, Mourinho always wins titles, so guaranteed. And the football didn't like. I don't think it was as bad as we've made out by a lot of fans, but I didn't like it. And I still maintain the momentum he was on, the course he was on, was one that I feel would have won the title. First season, 2 trophies. Second season, 2nd place in another cup final. I think if they give that was the trajectory there, is to win the title or have a major title challenge the next season. If you give him the money and let him buy the players he wants to buy. Now, you know, you can say, well, the players he wanted to buy, you know, that wasn't long-term thinking, but I don't know how long-term. Well, how long's long-term anyway? You know, I think United fans and United should want the title, and I think if he'd have got the centre back he wanted, remember he wanted even Perisic. And what, a year after Woodward wouldn't get him for him, Perisic was like one of the best players at the World Cup. You know, it wasn't such a bad pick of player, Mourinho. He wanted Gareth Bale as well. Yeah, I just think they were on a trajectory where if they didn't win the title, they were going to get very close, and he had the rug pulled from under him. His response then was completely wrong as well. You know, I think he kind of slapped the dummy, and that's why it all descended the way it did. But I think he had a very good cause to feel hard done to, because he could.
Yeah, especially after that second place. After that second place, that was the time to push, I felt, and that was the time to invest and take it to the next level. We didn't.
Well, that's why they've got to back Solskjaer. That's why they've got to back Solskjaer this summer. You get second place. You know, they didn't back him enough last summer, and he did everything they asked of him last year. You've got to back him this summer.
I think they should. I think they should back him, and if he wins the Europa League and comes second place, you can't. I mean, if he wins the Europa League and comes second place, that's a successful season for me. That's the best season since Fergie days. Second place in the Europa League, you know. So
I have my doubts as to whether he will ever win the title. I've got to be honest with that. I have my doubts as to whether he will win the title. I still don't know if in a head-to-head with Guardiola, Klopp, Tuchel, even Ancelotti, you know, if Everton actually get their act together, you know, I don't know that I'm backing Solskjaer to beat them to the title. But
especially if they get Haaland. I mean, I think it's imperative we get Haaland. Very important we get someone like Haaland, and as you said, a statement summer, and we get some players in there to take us further, to push it, to make a real statement this time. You know, I think the Glazers owe us one, especially after these last few days.
Well, look, it'd be nice to see, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to see, you know, if they did something like that. You know, let's wait and see on that. Haaland, they're not alone wanting him. You know, everyone wants Haaland, and you know, I would be worried as to why he didn't come that first time. You know, Solskjaer was his mentor, and you know, as good as, you know, Dortmund, a great club, of course they are, but you know, Man United, Scandinavia, given United's following in Scandinavia, United want you, and you go to Dortmund. That's not a good
Says
sign.
a lot, really, isn't it?
It does, and if this summer, you know, City are very much at the table for him, Chelsea are desperate for him. You know, I don't know. I suppose from a United perspective, they would have to hope that finishing second, he might actually be more convinced about the project, to use that modern term, about the project than maybe he was when they last came calling.
Cheers. James, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Sorry about the background noises and that and the lateness today. It's been absolutely crazy. I've got workers in my house and stuff like that today. But it's been a pleasure talking to you today, mate. Thank you so much for joining me today.
All the best.
Cheers, man. Thanks.